Hello folks, time for another rambling video. So we're going to be talking about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and I've used in multiple videos by now, and that's energy ropes, and specifically on damage dealers. I'm sure this is a pretty open and shut topic. Energy ropes are shit because of course we want attack ropes, right? You might be surprised that there is some applications for crit substats on energy ropes and that they might actually be the optimal way to play. In this video we will be looking at damage dealers and how energy ropes apply to them in both Memories of Chaos and Pure Fiction. Disclaimer, by the way, a lot of the TC I'm applying here is not the optimal way to play at all. These teams are just the bare minimum of what you can get away with given the proper fine-tuning of builds on suboptimal teams. For example, a team of Blade, Dr. Ratio, Fushuan, and Pella is obviously not Blade nor Dr. Ratio's best team, but you can make it work given an energy rope on ratio. If you are still struggling to get attack ropes, then this can be useful for you if you somehow have that busted 40 crit value energy rope lying around. Now before we get into this, I'm going to explain energy to you. Every single character in the game has an ultimate. Each character has a max energy that dictates how much energy you need to ultimate. To get energy, you do basics, skills, get hit, kill enemies, light cones, some relics, supports. There's a lot of ways to get energy. Energy regeneration rate, or ERR for short, is a multiplier to amplify the amount of energy you get. For relics, there's only one piece that has an energy main stat, and that's a rope. The other sources of energy regen is planar sets, Penacony, and Von Lack. You also get energy regen rate from some light cones, but this is pretty rare. It's pretty much only on harmony units. And just as an example, here is how ERR can influence how fast you can get a burst. Now why exactly is energy ropes a largely shunned way to build DPS characters? Well, if you can fine-tune your energy through outside variables like energy supports and enemy hits, energy regeneration rate on DPS characters is largely a non-factor, especially considering that you're sacrificing attack stats for it. As an example as to why energy ropes are mostly a trap, let us compare a 3-turn ult and a 4-turn ult rotation at 128 or 134 speed, barring Bronya shenanigans. With these speed values, you can maximize it to gain 9 total turns over the 5 cycles of Memory of Chaos in one side. The turns are divided into these parts. You take 2 turns to get your first burst off, then 3 or 4. And you can see that you can get 1 extra burst off with your 3-turn ult cycle at MoC. But to go deeper into this, the amount of offensive stats that you lost from the rope is not enough to compensate for that 1 more ultimate cast. Speaking of the stat loss through attack rope, it often depends on your support and self buffs. Jingliu, for example, can be paired with Ruan Mei, who has more damage percent, while Jingliu has a lot of attack percent for herself. If you put an energy rope on Jingliu, she doesn't lose nearly as much from a lost attack rope due to buff saturation. Energy supports makes energy ropes on the DPS invalid because they actually speed up your rotation so much that an energy rope is unlikely to make it any faster. Energy supports also have their own strict 3-turn rotation, so it ends up cancelling itself either way. Of course, everything I said is for Memory of Chaos. For Pure Fiction, you are playing a different type of game. In Pure Fiction, energy regeneration rate can be more advantageous. First of all, PF enemies are so squishy that they will likely die without the need of an attack rope. Any more attack might actually be a damage loss since you're overkilling the enemies too hard. With AoE focused DPS characters, their ultimates often make the enemies break in large masses, and due to the lower HP, they outright just die from the break damage itself. And because the enemies die so easily, you'll get more energy through kills. This leads to a situation where your ultimate charges at a much faster rate, making ERR better since the enemies are so squishy they just die through a mass breaking burst. With that being said, let's go to the first path and evaluate the value of an energy rope on them. Erudition, arguably the best DPS path to use an energy rope on. Erudition is so capable at handling extra enemies and adds that they are noticeably weaker when there aren't any. Let's jump straight into Pure Fiction. Pure Fiction, at least to what has been released so far, is exactly what Erudition needs to love energy ropes. Erudition ultimates are so capable at squishy adds that they don't need any more attack, and they gain a lot of energy through kills, which gets amplified by the rope. Nearly every single Erudition character is valuable in PF due to this. You can also add extra energy sources, which I will mention right now. First, the Thief set. The Thief set, as you all know, is regarded as having a mostly useless energy buff on the 4-piece. Not in this content mode. Since Erudition ultimates break a lot of enemies, every single enemy broken gets 3 energy that can lead to some really nasty burst chaining. Passkey. This 3-star light cone can supply you with more energy on skill use. Despite being a 3-star, if your character is decently invested invested enough elsewhere, it will be able to kill. To be more specific, Argenti. There's already a showcase of it by Dreamy and I won't get into much depth into that, but to summarize it here, Argenti has such a low cost ult with good MVs that packing him with an ERR rope, breaking enemies to activate Thief, and getting kill energy leads to a hilarious loop of ultimates. For Memory of Chaos, there is actually a way to make energy ropes work. Again, I feel the need to remind everyone that these are ideas to make a team work, especially dual DPS teams, but it's not necessarily the best way to play. Far from it actually, this is the best way to cope with a suboptimal build. Some erudition characters can use ERR when used with another DPS. For example, if Herta's main purpose is to kill the ads while another single target / blast character takes care of the main boss, then she can be used for that. She can use an ERR rope because ads in MoC might be squishy enough to not need an attack rope to kill. The benefits of this is that it allows her to have her ult faster if the ads are really fast to respond. An ERR rope also allows basics since she doesn't need the skill to get enough energy. To some turbulences, this is actually very important, like the one on screen right now that I made, where killing ads gives the benefit of focusing turbulences damage on the main boss. To some turbulences, obviously this isn't that important. Next path, destruction. Not really. Destruction is a bit too gimmicky. There's the issue of weird scaling characters like Blade and Shui who has no substitute for their respective ropes, and they don't have the supports that can dilute their buffs and saturate it. For destruction, the probability of getting hit is also higher, which means that destruction characters generally gain a lot of energy, more than other DPS units, especially units that want to get hit like Blade and Clara. A character like Jing Liu also doesn't change her rotation with an energy rope, though an energy rope doesn't nearly disadvantage her as much due to her self-high attack buffs. This at least does mean that she can use energy ropes with no issue on PF, but doesn't really affect her that much. Speaking of which, PF is roughly the same, but worse than erudition because they're mostly blast and not really AoE, so they can't really take much advantage of Thief, and they don't have an accessible light cone like Passkey. There is one character whose ultimate is packed with utility and damage that can make ERR better than attack rope. One character that is nearly always run with another DPS character, it's Mr. Farina himself, Misha. Misha has a very low cost ult that gives a freeze debuff. Packing him with ERR can make him a CC type support like Welt. He can also not need an EHR body to get more damage if the enemies don't resist freeze, making him a very flexible unit actually in terms of party roles. Overall, Misha is the only character I would actually recommend an ERR rope on, in both PF and MoC. Next, the Hunt. Oh god, this is quite possibly the worst of the DPS paths to give an energy rope to, but there is one character who's pretty nice with it on pure fiction. SPeele, or SPeele specifically. SPeele is a strategy where you can kill enemies with your basics, making her a weird SP generator / DPS for pure fiction. As for the others, they are not nearly as capable as SPeele in killing ads and just doesn't work well with PF. For MoC, energy ropes are just kinda dead. To compare to erudition, Hunt units more often than not try to hack away the main target and don't bother themselves with ads. Therefore, their energy economy is often lower since most of them don't focus on killing ads at all. Hi Zila. The way Hunt units are structured often leads to them to carry type teams instead of dual DPS type teams. In the former case of a hyper carry team, then you are using energy supports. In the latter case of dual DPS type teams, then your erudition unit is most likely the one that needs the energy rope. To compare to destruction, they don't have utility to make them a sub DPS or special scalings to make them less dependent on buffers. The closest you have to being a sub DPS is Topaz, but she attacks so frequently that her ultimate doesn't constitute to nearly enough damage to want an energy rope, and she can still be a basic attack spammer without it. So in general, when can you use an energy rope on a DPS? I made this chart that sums up this entire video. I'm gonna give you a few seconds and feel free to pause. Okay, that's all. See you later guys, and bye. I will see you in the next video.
無下進みましょう。